think we're live, Pavel, but let's give it a minute to catch up with us. It's good to see you again, buddy.
You too.
Yeah. It's been what,
It's
like 30 minutes?
excited for the webinar.
Yeah. Let's see here. I think I can put it on full screen. That'll help. All right, I think we can get started. Yeah, it's probably caught up with us.
Well,
Sound
maybe we will wait one more minute for everyone to join. Hey guys, in the meantime, you can just post where are you from on chat, so we can get to know you better.
Yeah, we've talked to people on every single continent, with the exception of Antarctica, I believe. So, if somebody's in
Yes.
Antarctica, let us know.
Yeah, with you. Vienna, beautiful city. Nice one.
It's the first European city that I visited besides Warsaw here.
Nice.
Charlotka from Vienna, apple pie. Oh, Zurich, nice. Never been there. Have you been there, Zurich?
No.
Yeah.
But I was in Vienna a few times, like three or four times. It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Right, I think we can get started.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. All right, so yeah, I'll do a bit of an introduction here, introduce ourselves and the topic, and then we'll dive into the meat of the presentation and hopefully share some things with you all that are helpful. My name is Jacob Davis. I'm the Customer Success Manager, one of many here at X Plus, and I operate primarily in the executive automats, the test automation, as well as security setup automation, which we've had a recent webinar on just the other day, and a few other tools as well that are really cool that I doubt we'll talk too much about those today, but we'll for sure have other webinars on those because good stuff. And I'm here with Pavel Wozniak. And Pavel, you can introduce yourself, but personally, I can say that Pavel's been here with us for quite a long time now. I think it's like 6 or 7 years, if I'm correct, and been working with customers like myself and helping, automate testing. But Pavel, maybe a short little line about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Yeah, so I've been working for X Plus for 6.5 or maybe 7 years already. So I worked here when 1.0 version of Executive Automats was released. So I was there when the first client was was introduced as well. Yeah, so quite a long time, but very nice journey. So
Yeah.
my role in X Plus always was focused on testing. I was a test manager previously. Right now, I'm the on position product evangelist. So my role is to introduce our products to customers, to find solutions for them, how fit our products to their needs. That's my daily job.
Yeah, you're quite humble. It's you've actually every day we talk and we're doing trainings for customers and things like that. So yeah, you know the tool super well. And yeah, actually you mentioned you were here from 1.0 version and the first customer. That was my customer. Woo! So anyways, today we'll be talking about automated testing, as we mentioned a couple times now. And the idea for this webinar actually is we wanted to show people and talk about how you benefit from automated testing. We'll definitely show our test automation tool and some of our strategies and talk about those things. But the idea is to show the benefits that you get out of doing automated testing. And also we'll talk about some of the common, let's say, pitfalls or mistakes that we see people making as well. So we've got a few topics, and of course, some good stories about how you can go from poor practices to, being a success story, as you can see here in the title. So really, that's the overall agenda for this webinar. And, we have the chat open as well. And so you can put questions into the chat. We're going to have some time at the end to do a Q&A, so we'll try to answer some things as well. And yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and jump in. Put your questions in the chat. And also, I believe that we will be recording this. And so people who have registered will get a recording later as well. So you can refer back to it and share with anybody else who might be interested. Definitely share it. Please do. So we've done introduction here. Our first topic is going to actually be about identifying some poor testing practices. I work with customers on a daily basis. Pavel works with customers on a daily basis and was previously a test manager. And we're going to try to point out some things that are really just common difficulties that we see customers experiencing in testing in general, and try to help point them out so that way when you see them on your side, you can say, hey, that's something that we know is not good. Let's try to remedy that. And of course, leading on from that, we're going to talk about some good practices that you can use, which is really, hey, do this instead of that. And we've seen a lot of success with our customers. We have really good success stories that we'll share as well. The third section then will be bridging the gap. So how you can use our automation tool and also other test management tools such as DevOps in order to help set up and effectively execute a good testing project, good testing strategy, good testing methodology. And then lastly, we'll talk about the impacts of good testing practices, how this actually affects businesses, why it's important for a business to do this, and the benefits that they'll see from that. And of course, as I said, share some success stories about it. And we'll finish up with a Q&A session and try to answer some questions. I think we'll probably have, 5 or 10 minutes, Pavel, that we can answer some of these questions. So with that said, let's jump right into it. The first part, some of the common pitfalls in testing practices. Pavel, we see this a lot, things people are doing, and, it's kind of immediately just, nope, don't do that. And obviously, we've got point number one here is no established testing methodology. And so I'll ask you, what exactly do we mean by testing methodology? What define this for us, and maybe some of the things that it impacts? Yeah.
Yeah. So the methodology is a big word, I would say. What we can observe and what we can see with our experience, that lack of methodology or approach is very common. Very often, clients they want to automate testing. They focus a lot on selecting the right tool for the testing, but nobody is focused on setting up the right processes for testing, like sharing the knowledge from the business user to the tester to automated script, or from manual test case or the process documentation to automated test. Many companies, they are just doing random things. They try to do many things at the same time. So that's why this point is first, and I think this is the most important one. So you don't need the complete test methodology, like the book how to test, but at least we can see that very often when companies, they are doing random things, they are trying different approaches at the same time, they end up with pitfalls. Like we had one customer, it was quite a long ago, like 4 years ago or so. They wanted to test on the end-to-end test cases. So they have created like 2,000 end-to-end test cases. So Executive Automaton is not the fastest executor of test cases on the market, but anyway, if our tool was like 10 times faster, anyway, they would need like week to run all those tests, because every script was like thousands steps. inside, and it clearly shows us that they have no like general rules, guidelines how to
Yep.
create test cases, who should create, who should change the statuses, who should review test cases, where test cases should be stored. These things, they should be at least documented somewhere. It can be even, and I will show you this today, it can be even the work item in DevOps, where which is the one source of knowledge. And we can see that very often companies are not doing that. There is sometimes like the person who is responsible for testing, and he's like the main source of knowledge. Like there is no documentation, no written approach, no written strategy. So this is very, very, very common.
Yeah, and what happens when that person isn't available, is on vacation or sick leave or something, then yeah, you're in trouble. So it's
Yeah, and
important.
you can imagine when you will have like new release, some modifications to test cases, they need to be done. If you don't have right approach, good communication paths, etc., you will end up on losing time on meetings, on trying to automate things maybe which don't need to be automated. Many things might fail if we don't have any method to do things.
Yeah, definitely, and we've seen it happen, and that's what we try to correct immediately whenever we see it happening. You
Yeah,
mentioned a really nice point, which leads nicely into our next point of SME/process owner unavailability, and it's not just about having maybe the knowledge located in one person and no documentation behind it, etc. But I think part of what we mean by this, and you can describe it a little further, is business users, the way that we do our testing is it's process based, yeah, and we're actually trying to test the actual processes that are happening in Dynamics. And there's always in companies people who know those business processes, so they need to be able to relay that to the test team. And so I think what we mean by SME process owner unavailability is they have to share the knowledge with the test team. And this is something that we see quite a bit. Maybe talk a little bit more about that point, Pavel.
sure. And I don't want the audience to get us wrong, because it is okay that SMEs they have the knowledge. That's okay as well if they record scripts for tests and stuff.
Yeah.
That's fine as well. But the problem is that they are the busy people in the
They have other stuff to do.
Yeah. And they are probably more busy than the management, the test manager, the business architect. So there is no problem that we need to like use SMEs or gain knowledge from them. But the problem is that if they are busy, if they have more important tasks, and we can agree that testing during hot implementations, we can say, it's not always the biggest priority. Very often we have delays on SMEs. So how we can solve this? How we can do it better? So first of all, we should have a plan how we want to share the knowledge. So we should plan upfront, block the calendars for SMEs.
Yep.
To be sure that they will be available when they are needed.
Yep.
Or we have the other choice. If we want to avoid meetings or trying to chase SMEs for knowledge, we can just get the documentation of processes, what we already mentioned. So if we can get very nice and good quality documentation, then we don't need SMEs. We can just have one tester who can automate testing. So,
Yeah, and I'll add on that we have a third option coming up very soon with executive discovery tool. Yeah, and actually you can just kind of do that a little more passively. But we'll definitely have a webinar on that, the discovery tool.
And we mentioned it, I think, on the last webinar this week on the security topic. Yeah, we are working on this option to get rid of recording, but we are still testing.
There's some time before that comes out, but yeah, I can't wait. Talking about the SMEs too, and this isn't specifically for SMEs, but it leads in again to the next point. I designed this very well, actually. Everything's flowing perfectly. A lot of the times the SMEs, business owners or process owners, they need to make sure that the test data is actually prepared, and so that's another thing that we see is if you're going to do testing, you have to have data available. So again, I'll turn the floor back over to you and let you talk more about what we mean by test data preparation. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we are testing automatically, we need to kind of program our test. So we need to give to our test all the inputs. So what input data is, and we want to check what is the output data.
What's an example of that? This input data.
So in dynamics testing, in process testing, this input data might be sales order number, right? I want to create an invoice for sales order. Then I need to find sales order in the system. And I can pick random one, or I can pick the specific one with exact number. So we can say that input data for my test case would be the sales order ID. It would be like the prerequisite for me. So this is common thing to have the prerequisites for every test case. So if we have good documentation, good description of test cases, usually the data is not a problem because we can prepare for it. But if we don't have documentation, if we again are doing some random things, very often the companies they forgot on creating data. And in EA, we have very nice features to support that. We can use Excel files, we can use prerequisite scripts. Very often we run data creation scripts. So if we want to run our regression, before we do the regression execution, the cycle of regression, we run few batch jobs with some scripts to create data for us. So again, planning here is crucial. We should plan it up front, and we should know what data will be needed by our tests, and we would need to be prepared for every cycle.
Yeah, and who's responsible for doing it, and also, as you said, having it in the test plan, test strategy. Another point that you and I talk about quite often with customers is it's not just about the data, like sales orders and things like that, but also having the correct settings established. So maybe sometimes at the end of a script, you might even want to delete some data or something like that, and so you can put up a couple of steps.
Common practice, as well.
Yeah, to like reset the settings back to where they need to be. Yeah. So that's another thing to keep in mind is not just the data actually being in the Dynamics environment, but make sure that you're testing, you have a good plan set in there to make sure that the settings and configurations are all set up appropriately.
What I do to be prepared to check things is a very simple thing that aircraft pilots do. Before every start of a plane, they do the checklist. So the same we do for the regression. Before we run our schedulers with the tests, before we run our regression, we should do the checklist. If we have the data, if we have the users, and everything around.
Yeah, I really hope pilots are doing that. It puts me at ease that we fly a lot. Okay, yeah. Next point, lack of test coverage. I think there's 2 points to this. I'll allow you to talk to it. Talk to these 2 points. Dive into that and let us know what we're meaning.
Yeah, so I think most of the people probably are familiar with why manual testing isn't the best option for testing ERPs, and the lack of test coverage is also like a consequence of manual testing. Because when we test manually, we need to execute every process in the system by a human. So every process needs to be done by a human in the system. And if we are testing manually, what we can observe, most of the companies, they are trying to test absolute minimum. And at the end of the day, we can observe that they are not even testing the absolute minimum. They are testing like few processes, maybe a few dozens of processes, and that's all. To give you the example, we had one of our clients who had 50 test cases, 50 manual test cases as a 100% of a test plan. So when 50 test cases were okay, they were accepting the one version and everything was fine. So when they started to automate those 50, of course, they did 50 pretty quick. They realized that they can test more. They can run tests overnight. Nobody needs to watch the test execution. We can just get the results in the morning. So they ended above 500 of test cases. So the coverage of their application was increased 10 times. Of course, they didn't increase the number of business processes done in the system. They just increased test plan with better coverage of the variants, of some data specific test cases. Like sometimes you need to pick the domestic vendor or foreign vendor, and it may affect the whole process later on.
Yeah.
So they could scale the test plan 10 times. So you can imagine how much the stability increased. So we don't have the exact figure, but it probably was 10 times more stable than it was before. Maybe that's also too much, but you would never test 600 test cases in manual way, right? You can imagine how many people would need to do that job for how long time to to do that thing manually. So manual testing is pitfall for testing practices, because very often we are not testing enough. We have the risk that humans, they will do the mistakes. We need to trust them that, hey,
are they doing it?
They executed the test case, but maybe they just executed it in a short way, just to get the outcome as soon as possible, and he didn't check the rest of the process. So with automated testing, we don't have this problem. We get always the same results. How we programmed the test, how we created the script, this is what we will get at the end for the outcome.
Yeah, exactly. And so with lack of test coverage, it's not just about testing more processes or more modules, et cetera. It's also testing even within a same process, as you mentioned, where it's maybe test a domestic sales order versus international sales order. So testing different variants as well. And whenever you're doing manual testing, we see it very often. And I hear from test managers who are doing a large amount of manual testing all the time, is they don't really trust that the people, the SMEs who are doing the testing are doing everything that they say they're doing. Not that, not that people are shady, but hey, they've got other stuff to do. Maybe they were drinking their coffee and talking to their buddy while they were clicking through things, that type of thing. So definitely automated testing is a much more reliable way. Yeah.
When I was starting my career as a tester, I remember that we had some known bugs in one of the applications, and we were like not noticing it. After some time, it was so common bug that nobody cared of it. And
yeah, that happens.
We were like, hey, maybe we'll fix that, right? Because so this manual testing got this risk that somebody will say, hey, this never worked. So probably everyone knows that we had this bug, but nobody knows.
Nobody reports it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right on. This next point, actually, this is something where I think it seems like simple knowledge, testing continuously. But I'm actually surprised how often before we start working with customers, how often they aren't testing continuously. They will just, before a release, they'll try to run a whole bunch of tests, and then that's it, and then until the next release. So maybe talk a little bit and explain about smoke testing, sanity testing, and kind of just the whole, testing continuously, test cadence process, because this is a critical thing that I see happening all the time.
Yeah, so with test automation, we have these options to maybe use different kinds of testing to run different types of scripts on for different occasions and for different triggers for testing. If we ask our prospects or our customers about manual testing, very often we have answers like they don't know how much they are testing, how long they are testing. That's because manual testing is not continuous. One time they are executing 100 test cases, the second time they are executing 50 test cases. One time testing lasts for 1 week, one time it lasts for 2 weeks because the test plan is changing. They want to test as much as they can before the one version update. But not every time they have time, they have resources, they have people. So each cycle for manual testing is the same story. We need to have the people, we need to have the time. With automated testing, we don't need to bother about allocating the resources, etc. We just need to run our scripts. So this is again the same story where the test automation will give us always the same results, always the same amount of scripts will be executed. And with this manual testing, very often our customers, our prospects, one time they are testing different things, the other time they are testing other things. So they don't even know if the application is stable because each time they are testing different things. So this is very common. Sometimes they also skip the versions, so or they skip the testing of the versions because they just take the one version on test environment. They test few things. If everything is okay, they take the one version. So this is quite common as well.
Yeah. And, I think the last point before we get to move on to talking about the good things, and this is, again, something that it blows my mind that I still encounter people who are not using DevOps or some other test management tool, or maybe they have DevOps, but they're not using it to even have really like test plans in it. They're just using it for bugs and development purposes. So talk about the importance of that, and then also what you see people making mistakes on when trying to use something like DevOps or Jenkins or whatever test management tool they're using. Yeah.
Yeah, so test management tool is it's important. Maybe not that much as a test automation tool or other things, but still, it is good to have a tool where we can store test cases, where we can create tasks for our team, where we can store documentation, etc. So Excel as a ERP system and test management system is still quite common, quite popular. So many things are in Excel files, in other file types. Some things are on SharePoint. So very often there are different documentations, different files. They are like cycling from one person to another, and things get messy in this case. It is really hard to have a clear vision of what is happening if we don't have good tools to manage our team and our testing, because here we are not managing only the testing but also our team. In DevOps we can create tasks, we can create features, test plans, test cases, so we can have the whole documentation there. Today I will try to show how we can set up Azure DevOps to have a very smooth cooperation within the team.
Awesome. Yeah. Nice. All right. So we've talked a little bit about this as we're going along, but really let's try to hammer home the point here is if you are doing these poor practices, if you're doing the things that we just previously discussed, obviously you're going to have some instability in your system and in your releases, but you're going to release bugs into production, right? And so that's going to increase your costs. your business continuity is going to be interrupted. You're going to waste a lot of time. People are going to have to fix things, and then you're going to have people who, either you've delayed the release or rollout or integration, whatever you're doing, or people are sitting there waiting for things to be fixed. And of
Mhm.
course, we all know this. I think everybody's at some point in time in their life had a job where you're sitting there and the system is down and you're trying to get some work done. You have deadlines you need to try to meet. And so, yeah, that's employee frustration.
It
And
can
we don't want,
be frustrating.
no, nobody wants upset employees, right? That doesn't help anything going on. So,
Especially if you
uh,
have some deadlines on your targets and the system is not
yeah.
cooperating with you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we mentioned, delays on releases, rollouts, your integration releases, really, it's a killer.
Yeah,
It's
we,
not
we
good
can
for you.
stop for a second on business continuity interrupted because every point is important, but this business continuity interrupted is, I think, the most important.
Yep.
That's actually why we are testing. We want to avoid this kind of situation. And we already had few examples where we wanted to cooperate with some companies. They were like, hey, this test automation is nice. We want to do it someday, but not now, not now. And later on, they were coming back after some incident, right?
Yep.
When Dynamics stopped working for 1 day or 2 days. Uh, I spoke last week or the week before with a new customer who had this incident. So they started to think about test automation because they couldn't create sales orders for 2 days in the system because something was breaking. So if you
Jeez.
cannot create sales orders for 2 days, you are losing a lot of money because you cannot
Yeah.
operate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the cost of it can be in millions, right?
Yeah.
For
I
some.
hate to say it, but sometimes for us who have a test automation tool and situations like that happen, that's actually like the best thing for us because they say, "Oh, not now. We don't really need it." And then something like that happens and they immediately come back to us. It's a terrible
Yeah,
thing
well,
to say. I don't wish pain on anybody, but yeah, it's it's kind of you should have listened to us. So,
you
yeah.
should just plan well. I know that
Yeah.
we might sound boring because on every webinar we are saying plan your testing, do
Yeah.
procedures, think about it, how you want to do it. But yeah, but because this is important, we can see that some people are still struggling with testing, and yeah,
Yeah.
incident happens.
It's a fundamental thing that you have to do, and nobody likes to hear about the fundamental things over and over again, but those are the most important things often. So, and last point here too, business users spending too much time on testing. This was something that we didn't really we touched on it whenever we were talking about SMEs doing testing and manual testing, um, but this is really business users need to be doing business things, and they don't want to be taking a week to go through and do some testing and stuff. And so, as you mentioned previously, is they won't do it, and so when you're if you're not automating your testing and if you don't have a good plan in place and people dedicated to making sure testing is being done, then it's going to be your business users who are spending too much time on it. And that also costs the business money. And it'll even make people leave the job because I'm not a tester. I don't want to be doing testing. I want to be doing whatever it is that I'm hired to do. Yeah. And that's something that we see quite a bit with
Yeah,
companies.
it's quite common for companies to have one testing cycle just after another testing cycle. So
Yeah.
before they can end up one testing, they need to prepare for another one because there is next one version. There is some in-house development done, or there is ISV update. They need to update Dynamics as well. So very often the business users they are testing for 1 week, they go to the next week and they need to test again.
Yeah.
So it might be frustrating for people who don't like to do it. Very
Yeah.
often we hear that this is something extra. This is the extra work for those people, but they didn't agree to do that, right? At the
Yeah.
beginning, right?
When I hear people complaining about having to do that, then they generally say, "Oh, it's not my job to be doing testing." And I always tell them, "Well, it sucks. I know you don't like to do it, but add that to your resume that you've done testing. Put that on your CV." So, a good little tip for people to remember there. All right, Pavel. Maybe we talked a little bit too long on things, but I'm happy to sit here and keep chatting. So let's go ahead and move into good testing practices. So, good testing methodology and strategy. I'll let you talk a little bit about that, and I'll try not to interrupt you too much.
Yeah, so I think we had few webinars on it already.
Yep.
So you guys can take a look on our YouTube channel, so you can check out the webinars about methodology, what should be included, how important it is. But for sure, we should have a plan, at least a plan. Maybe not the big word methodology, at least plan or approach. We should at least know what are the practices, what we need to do to from manual test case or from the business user knowledge, get the test automated script for us, what needs to be done, what work items needs to be created, what artifacts, what entities we need to prepare, who is responsible for which elements of the process of test automation, who is responsible for recording, who is responsible for review, who is responsible for executing test cases, and at the end, who is responsible for checking the results, right? So at least we should name those things, we should plan those, we should have an approach. Something what is really important, and it's quite easy to do, is the prioritization.
You can do it.
Yeah, you can do it. Sorry, guys.
Prioritization.
Yeah, to have priorities on your test cases, to know what should be done in the first place. So these things are just like the good start. If we have the process, how it will look like on creating automated scripts, who will do that, how the process will look like. If we need to create work item in DevOps, we should write everything in one document, and then it will work better. Of course, test automation here. So if you are still testing manually, if you're struggling with every one version, first of all, you can look for help. You can, for instance, contact us. We don't have only tools in our portfolio. We have also services. Even the knowledge share can be something beneficial for you. We can help with methodology things as well. So if you don't know how to do it, you can contact the right companies. We will also share today on the chat one ebook, which can be also some guidelines for you to set up your automation projects. So I would say plan and have the approach. This would be the very good practice to at least have the process named and described. That would be the good starting point. And what do we have at the end? Test coverage.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that as well.
So on the test coverage, we should start with the priorities. So if we do the priorities for our test cases, we know what should be automated first. So we can base our coverage on the priorities.
And these priorities, like priority one, like the highest priority ones, those are the ones that if they fail, your business loses money. Yeah, that's the biggest deal. That's one of the best ways to prioritize them is if this fails, we're screwed. So those goes number one for sure. Yeah.
We can also use priorities and severity as two parameters. This can be done as well, but at least one will make a job to know our coverage, how many things we need to automate, which things are the most important, which types of testing we will do. This is also important if we want to do the end-to-end testing or not, if we do the smoke testing. So on this topic test coverage, we should think also which test types we want to run.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, test coverage should be increased. So, of course, there would be the point where we can decide, all right, our test coverage is fine and we don't need to go any further. But very good practice is to increase just a little the coverage. So each cycle we can add few test cases, maybe some variants, etc. So
Yeah.
the test coverage should change and should be increasing, right?
And integrations. And that's actually something, jumping back to prioritization. I just wanted to say that word again because it's fun to say. Um, that it's not just about like what's most important. Like I mentioned, if this process fails, then our business is in trouble. But there could be specific testing projects you're doing, like maybe a performance project or something like this, in which case then the priority might change. It might not be so you need to understand what your goal is for
Yeah.
testing as well in order to prioritize correctly. Yeah.
This is the first point in
Yeah.
our testing methodology. You should know the objectives of testing.
Yep.
Why you are even bothering to test, right? But very often we actually can see that companies, they are testing different types of testing, and if you ask them why you need this type of testing, why you do the performance testing, you spend the money on it, you spend the time on it, why you do it, you do that, and they don't know. So
Yeah. It
uh,
might be a good idea to do it still, but they don't know why. And
yeah, yeah,
that's
it's
that's kind
probably
of
better to do it or than not to do it, but
yeah. Yeah.
still we should know why we are doing things, why
Yes.
we have this test case. Because if we don't need test case, we shouldn't create it, we shouldn't run it. It is just waste of time and resources on the server to run test cases
Yep.
which are useless, which are not checking anything in the system. We should
Yep.
get rid of this kind of test cases.
Yeah. And so, you mentioned during test coverage, like expanding it and things like that. One thing is you definitely need to test your integrations, and I think people understand this as well. You need internal test coverage expansion as well, as you mentioned, with different, maybe multiple validations or different variants of things. And then, of course, end-to-end testing. I think that's most people understand this as well. Um, is there anything you want to add to that about test coverage? I think we've covered that pretty well.
I think we were good. Of
Yeah.
course, guys, if you will have any questions, just put them on a chat
Yeah.
and
I've
we'll
seen a
get back.
couple in the chat, and we'll get to them, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping we can save some time here. We talked briefly earlier about prerequisite scripts and data preparation. Let's just take maybe 1 minute because I want to save some time for the Q&A as well. What what is a prerequisite script? Tell us what that is.
Prerequisite script is the very often is the process or data that we need to continue our testing or to start our testing actually. So for every test case, we should define if there is something that we need to do before this test. If we want to execute the test, what needs to be in place? So probably we need user, which is very common thing. We need to log into dynamic systems. So we need the user. Very often we need some data. So I need the customer ID to create invoice, right? So
Mm-hmm.
these things should be in place for every script, every test case. So every test case should have at least prerequisites as a inputs to the test steps, of course, and at least overall expected result. It is good if every step has the expected result, and if we want to be very detailed and very specific, we can do that. But at least if we have expected result of the whole test case, that would be enough. So
Yep.
prerequisites, steps, and expected result, these are musts for every test case. So if you create test cases without any expected results or prerequisites, probably you should change that and you should add this.
Yep. And as far as the data preparation here, let me hop back here, but data preparation is another part of it. And I think actually that goes with one of the questions that we've had in the chat here, was asking about, can you also save or export in Excel the order numbers created using EA scripts? Yeah. Um, I'm not sure.
Hmm,
Maybe we can touch on that a little later because I think that's
I
actually a little
think
different.
because that's not the easy answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we'll touch on that later. I was thinking it said something slightly different than that, but all right, Pavel, I think this is the cool part actually is we'll do a bit of a showcase here because it's how to do it right now. And you can hop in and we're going to show you guys our test automation tool, Executive Automats, and then also how that integrates with DevOps. Of course, with test automation, you need organization. You can create the test cases and then execute the test cases. And I think you've got a decent little example you'll show us on that. And the same thing with DevOps. So let's
Yeah.
hop into that.
So, all right. First, I will show how I defined my project in Executive Automats, but also I will try to be SME today or the tester today, and I will show you how my procedure for testing looks and how it can work in your organization, and how you can set up your projects in Azure DevOps and EA to have a smooth work within the team. So I will open projects first. So in the projects, I have created my test methodology sample. And let's imagine that my project will focus around the regression testing. So of course, this is the first release and first iteration of regression testing. So I don't have every module yet. I don't have every test case automated yet. But what we always do, and we always advise our customers to start small. You don't need to automate everything in 1 month. You don't need to increase coverage by 100% in 1 month. We should start small. So in this test plan, I have 13 or 14 test cases, which I have started. This is my starting point for the regression. So I have accounts payable and some test cases here, accounts receivable, etc. So for every module, I have some tests prepared. And as you can see here, we have few things which are important. My every project has a number, so very quickly I can find out test cases by numbers. So if I know if my test case starts with 01, I know this is the accounts payable module. So I don't even need to read the name of the process. I know that this is accounts payable module just by the number. So one of the good practices is to name projects with some conventions, so with some scheme, right? And the same goes for test cases. So as you will see here, every test case of mine is named with the module abbreviation and the number of the process and of the variant. So I have the same situation for each kind. And because our tool can integrate with Azure DevOps, we highly recommend that. So I will show you how also I set my DevOps, not only for test plan and test cases, but also for my team and for smooth communication and work between the team. So let's start with backlogs first. In backlog, I have my epic created, and my epic is divided into the different features. You don't need to be strict to the work item type. It can be different work item type, but this is quite common structure how people do testing. If we open my epic, you can see here is my part of information, part of documentation of my test project. So you can link important things to your testing work item, testing main work item. So here you can have the names of test managers, of people involved in the project. You can also link RASI matrix here if you have. So for our projects, this is very standard that we create one epic with all the basic information for our testing team. Then I have different sanity checks. I won't cover them. Let's focus on the regression. So this is my first regression. Let's imagine that in my company, I'm doing the first cycle of regression. So I'm trying to automate few modules and few processes that are already implemented to my dynamic system. So as you can see, for every module, I have created user story here. It can be also the requirement. I just need to divide different modules and to have them separated. And here I have tasks for every script that I need to create. My team is creating tasks. And as you can see here, I have new task created by my task manager. So let's imagine that right now I'm the SME. So I got the task to automate purchase order. So my team usually activates the task, and then it means that we can proceed with test automation. So I should now create new test case. I will just copy the name of it. All right, it would be the Poland. And yeah, let's create. I will try to do it very fast, so do not mind me. I want to show you as much as I can, so I will try to record the script as fast as I can.
And this, of course, is our tool, and he's created the script, which is like an empty container, and now he's in the recorder. I think most people have probably seen this already. It's quite a popular tool, but you have on the right side, you'll see the steps as they record.
I'm not explaining every step because today we want to focus more on how to set up your project, how to set up your team. We want to present you how you can use DevOps to manage your team. How we can create your structure here, and we want to focus on this more than the tool itself. You can do this kind of structure and team management with any tool. So it should
just filling up time while it was loading.
Right, let's create new one.
And you're just going through the process, yeah?
Yeah. So I just need to record my purchase order creation. That's what my manager wants me to do. Come on. I want to be fast, but Dynamics is not cooperating with me. It worked faster before the webinar.
I bet, yeah. What's a live demonstration if you don't have some technical difficulties?
Yeah, that's it. I will just, I think, copy the number of vendor. Not this one.
And of course, we do demonstrations, so you guys can visit our website, executiveautomats.com, and book a demonstration with us, or contact us. We'll have our information up here at the end, and we're happy to set up a demo for you guys for the tool.
So I have to select some item. So let's select it, and I think I will not change other fields. I cannot use this one. Let's change it to another one. All right, this one is good, I think. And the rest is filled. I think we can save and let's confirm. No, this item is not the correct one. Let me see which one I took here. It was D011. So this one should work. Yeah, finally. All right. So purchase and confirm. So as a tester, my first thing after recording would be to play back the script. First, I would need to clean this up a bit. So let's just remove these things.
Nice feature about the tool too is you can, if you make mistakes, you can fix things quite quickly.
This one will be needed. All right, good. Not yet. This, and this. We don't need duplicates. All right, very simple, very quick script. So usually for our projects, if we automated a test case, then I go back to my task. I put the link to my manager, and I'm closing the script. And on the EA side, we highly reuse statuses, because right now I can use the ready for review status to let know my test manager that there is a new test case created. We should review it. And of course, if I will be the test manager right now, I would go to test case. I would check the steps. Of course, as a test manager, I should play back every script once or twice to see if everything is okay. And of course, our methodology says that if everything is good, we should use the integration with Azure DevOps, and I highly recommend that, because if I will publish my test case, I can export this test case to test plans. So this project and this test regression testing is connected between my EA and my Azure DevOps. So as you can see, my project structure is reflected in DevOps, and my test cases are here. And also I'm gathering the results in Azure DevOps. So that's why this is very nice way on documenting your test cases by exporting test cases to DevOps. So I have created new script in accounts payable. So I should have a new variant of purchase order creation created. Let's see. All right, variant for Poland is created. As a test manager, this is not the end for me, because I should also open my scheduler. So schedulers are used to run my scripts, to run my regression. So I as a test manager, I approved one more test case. So in this case, the last step for us is to add this test case to the scheduler. Of course, you can have many schedulers for different occasions, different reasons, but of course, test manager is working on it, and he's like checking if the schedulers can be executed, or if we need to create more of them. I will run now my scheduler. What is very nice about integration with Azure DevOps, you can see that I'm using the configuration, so I can run my scripts once. And if I would need to run my scripts again and get results again in Azure DevOps, I don't need to recopy the whole test plan. I can use this integration with configuration, and both in EA or in Azure DevOps, I can use configurations. So if your guys not familiar with configurations, I highly recommend using them, because with configurations, you can reuse the same test cases, the same test plan again and again for different occasions, different cycles of testing, and you don't need to recreate your test plan. So once my scripts run with this configuration, which is assigned regression testing dry run 1, I can run the same scripts again with different configuration, and my previous execution for this dry run 1 will be always stored in DevOps, so I can always go back to the results. So let's see how our regression is running. Of course, this is very small regression because we have 14 test cases, not 300 or 400. But as an example, I think it fits. So take a look on the structure again. This is something which we recommend to create tasks for every test case to be created. If I open this Italian here, I want to show you that very often we have some test cases, manual test cases already created, or some documentation. In Azure DevOps, we can use also attachments to attach documentation, attach manual test cases as a reference to automated script. So we have the full history of what we done in test automation, and we have this full traceability. Uh, and of course, once our script ends with the error, our integration with Azure DevOps can help with that as well. Because as you can see, if my script ends with the error, I have very quick option to create work items. So this is something maybe something more than today's topic, but as you can see, I can very quickly create bugs from test automation tool to my Azure DevOps. So that's why I highly recommend to use some test management tool like Azure DevOps, Jira. I know that there is a question if we can integrate with Jira. No, we can't, but pretty soon this should be possible. Sorry, guys, for exceeding the time. We still can stay a few minutes longer to answer the questions, because from my showcase that would be all. If you would like to know how to set up your DevOps, how to set up your projects, or you would like to get some advices, feel free to contact us on this topic as well. We can help not only with automation, but also with the management of testing as well.
Yep. And, Pablo, benefits to the organization here as well is something to talk about. And this, I think it's understandable to everybody. But of course, you get enhanced product quality, faster releases, reduced costs, improved stakeholder confidence, which is, I mean, come on, that's quite critical, and improved business user attitude or happiness, better resource allocations. So
Yeah,
I
the
think,
last one is the most important, right? Because
yeah,
you can let your business, let your people focus on things which they are good at, and
yep,
which they can do better than something that they don't like.
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah. And of course, again, enhanced product quality, so your Dynamics is running more efficiently. There's less risk of downtime. But speaking on that, we had a really good example here recently. Again, I talk with customers every single day, and just had one of them share a success story with me. Is they're actually this customer, they're UK based, and they've got entities all over the world that they're using our test tool, and of course DevOps also to manage their testing projects. And they just went through a release, and they were doing their regression testing before the release, and they managed to find out. And I think they're running, what was it, like 600 or 700 uh, test
it's
cases, something like
quite big
this.
regression, actually.
Yeah, huge regression. Because again, they're quite advanced. They've been doing it for about a year now, and so you can make quick progress and get things. And they've got a very dedicated team and a good methodology that we help them implement. And they managed to find several different bugs that would have been released to production. But one of them that was just quite significant was basically there was a difference in configuration between prod and UAT. And what that meant to them is whenever they would post a transaction, and I forget exactly what it was, but it was something like when they post a transaction, like the tax ID in production
Mhm.
environment with those configuration settings would have been it would have been incorrect data going into it. And the problem with that is once the transaction was posted, they would have had no way to reverse that or delete that or anything like that. So they would have had to submit change requests for each and every single transaction that was
Yeah,
posted.
this is how Dynamics works.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
cannot remove the posted transaction, so you need to repost the opposite value. Or
Yeah, and
but
had to
this
do
is
the
quite
change
common.
requests. I mean, and in just a matter of a couple of hours, they would have had so many transactions going through that it literally just being able to catch that before it went to prod, just slight configuration difference between prod and UAT, and had they not caught that with their test automation, with their regression testing, they would have spent hours and hours and days fixing
This
that.
is quite common
Yeah,
because in Dynamics we have like few settings that they change the way how the hosting works and
yeah,
accounting works. So with one tick of a checkbox, you can completely change the process. So yeah,
yeah.
that's quite common.
Could you imagine? That would be, oh man, waking up that day and coming in and being like, oh no. Yeah. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, Pablo? We're a little bit over time, so I'd like to get into the answering this question. You mentioned you've already answered one of them, but wanted to see if there's any other questions. Um, Anything else that
Yeah.
you can think
So
of?
if we can go back to this question about saving, exporting the order numbers
Mm-hmm.
to Excel. Uh, so if you create sales orders or any other orders by your script, you can always save the value of sales order ID as a variable. Unfortunately, we cannot create a file and override that file with the orders numbers. But what you can do, what I can think of, what our tool can do, is that the orders that you created, you can filter them in the table, and you can export any table from Dynamics to Excel file. So you can end up your script by downloading the table with orders that you created, and this file will be saved within the history of execution of the script. And unfortunately, there is no way for now to automatically transfer this file to another script and use it, but still you can manually take it and attach it to another script.
Just a couple of clicks as well. It's just drag and
Semi-automated.
drop. Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you are familiar with TypeScript or JavaScript, then probably you can think of some advanced code to handle that. But from standard functionalities, it would be difficult to do that. And yeah, can you define the warehouse management app as a system in Executive Automats or just a web app? So there are two ways to test warehouse management with Executive Automats. First way is to use the emulator. So the mobile application can be opened in the browser in an emulated web version, and you can create scripts that will do the processes on the simulator. I know that it works a bit different than the mobile app, but this is what we can do for now. And there is also another way, because you can also use the task validation app. So this built-in functionality within Dynamics to create scripts which are testing the management application, the warehouse management application. And then you can create Executive Automat scripts to trigger scripts from task validation app and get the results of those scripts and verify if the results are something that we waited. And if we go back for a second to the Jira integration, so we are not planning on creating Jira integration ourselves, but soon we should have the option to create own integrations between third-party tools to Executive Automats tool. So if we want to create the default integration, even if we want to create it, we should have the option for you guys to create integration yourself. So this will be something that might help you.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Pablo. I would not have been able to answer those questions, so I'm glad you're here. I think that's all for the questions that we've got right now. So, of course, you guys can definitely visit us at executiveautomats.com, and you can reach out to us. We've got our information on there, so you can ping us. You can get a demo, free trial, and of course, there's lots of other information on the website as well that you can check out. And here in the chat, if you take a look, you can download the ebook and take a look at that, because it's really good, solid stuff in there about the methodology, which, Pavel talked extensively about that and gave some really good advice on how to set up good methodology for testing. So really important to do. And if you start there, then it's going to make everything a lot smoother as you go forward. So it's a lot easier to start off in a good way than to have to come back and clean up and try to readjust afterwards. So really, Pavel, I appreciate all your input today, man. It's always good talking with you. We've got our end of the year company party coming up tomorrow, but I know you won't be able to make it. That's too bad, buddy. But
Yeah.
it's a long way to travel, anyways, for you. But also, everybody, want to wish you a really nice rest of the year and a happy new year. And any holidays that you happen to be celebrating, I hope it's safe and enjoyable for you. Get together with family and so forth. So we really appreciate you being here. And yeah, I think that's about it for us.
Yeah, and wait for some news from our side next year, of course.
Yeah,
We
big
will have
stuff
some
coming.
surprises.
Yeah. We're working hard. Let's say that. Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, hey, I appreciate you, and
Thank you,
we'll
Doug.
talk.
Thank you, guys. Have a good the rest of the day. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.